I'd like to thank all of you for coming and being here today to take part in this educational opportunity. As part of our cross-cultural class, this is an exercise that we're going to be going through. There'll be a series of questions. I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to introduce yourself, and then we'll begin with the questions.
I'm Marjorie. I am a second-year community counseling student.
My name is Quinette Tukes, and I'm a second semester graduate student.
My name is Ari Tukes, and I'm a second semester graduate student.
My name is Yolanda Orange, and I'm a third semester graduate student.
Melinda, I'm a graduate student, second semester.
China, graduate student, second semester as well.
Okay, thank you. The first question is, earlier today we were with a mixed group of the majority culture and as yourselves as representing the minority culture, and we've been separated from that group. I want to know what your reaction or how you feel about being separated from that group, if anything came up for you as we were leaving the room.
Well, for me, there have been times when I've been separated anyway, so I don't know that it posed a lot of stress. I did think about what were they thinking. You know, we left talking and laughing, so we were pretty comfortable. But I could see faces of other students, and they weren't comfortable, and so, you know, I was wondering what were they thinking, how are they feeling about it. But I expect that, you know, we were all grouped together, so it would be something for us that would be beneficial, I would hope.
I agree with Audrey. I think when we were separated, like she said, we all kind of were like, okay, well, we're being separated. And when I looked at my classmates' reaction to that, their faces kind of just dropped and kind of, you know, were astonished and was like, well, you know, what about us? You know, it's kind of how they looked at us. So, you know, I guess at times I often feel separated while being in the midst of, you know, the majority culture or whatever. So it wasn't a big deal to just walk out. It wasn't an issue for me.
I think subconsciously for me, I'm used to kind of doing my own thing with my own culture. And I think when we were separated from, when you called us out to be separated from the group, I just went with the norm. I mean, I knew something was going to go on. I knew it was kind of exciting. It was different. I was able to look at everyone else and observe how their facial expressions were doing and stuff like that. But I adjusted, and I was looking forward to finding out what was the plan when you did the separation, and just curious on how everyone else was going to respond. But I adjusted, so.
For me, actually, to be separated from them was kind of like, okay, what we're going to do now. I really was surprised that we had this many African Americans in one class at one, you know, in a graduate program. Usually you'd be like the only African American in the class for other Caucasian, majority of them being Caucasian, and so to have other African Americans leave out at the same time, that was like, okay, what are we about to do, you know? So I think I was pretty much more happy to see more people of my color in my class and being just, you know, a lot of us more so than just one person. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can, you know, identify with, you know, other people's feelings when we had to leave the room and everything. First, I was noticing right away how my other colleagues in the classroom were looking like, well, what's going on? What are they about to do? And why do we have to stay here? I want to go with them. I was kind of like, I kind of felt like, oh gosh, you know, that is a different feeling, you know, but I kind of stuffed it because I guess my curiosity, like Ari was saying, my curiosity kind of overrode that feeling. And you know, I'm kind of used to being separated anyway, or being like, so to speak, like the one to stick out in classrooms, because my experience has been at times where I was the only person of color or black person in the classroom. So I think because of childhood experiences, it kind of helped me to just kind of get over that quicker.
Well, I was excited because I kind of had a feeling of what was going to happen. I didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but I knew that the exercise had a purpose being the type of class material that we discuss in class and the title of the class. So I kind of had a feeling that something like this might have happened. But I did notice that some of the other students, the Caucasian students, kind of looked sad when we left. And that made me feel a little bad. So it took away from my excitement a little bit. And it made me kind of like, oh, I don't want to leave you guys. I want to stay. I want to stay. So that was pretty much how I felt.
Yeah, but going back to what Yolanda said, I remember going in undergrad to a psychology class, and I went to a predominantly white university, and I went into my psychology class, and there were no other black students, and I had come from pretty much an all-black high school, and I walked out. I didn't even stay that day because I couldn't believe where I was. It was really, for me, a real culture shock. So it took a little bit of getting used to that, and then I think for me, once you get used to it, you just sort of used to it, and so being separated, okay, no big deal. So
Yeah.
I think for myself, I'm used to, like I said, I'm used to separation. Like I know I work with Caucasian Americans. I may have gone to class with Caucasian Americans, so I know it's temporary. In that sense, I know when class is over, when I'm off work, I'm going home. I'm around my wife. I'm around my family. I may have socially be around some friends. So the idea of it'll be different if I lived in an all-white community, or I didn't know anybody that was an African American that I didn't have a social outlet with. Then I probably would feel a little bit. I would have felt a little bit different about the separation. But because I'm already living in this kind of a separate society, as far as a separate community, I adjusted. That's what it was easier for me to adjust. Yeah, I looked and I was observant, but at the same time I was observant, and then I walked out and I was like, okay, what we're doing, you know?
So
that's what we all do.
class is done.
Very good, very interesting, thank you. Do any of you have examples of having been discriminated against because of racism or prejudices that you would like to be able to share with us today?
I have a recent one. I was at my job this previous weekend, and a lot of people, I believe a lot of people in 2005, in this day and age, don't believe that prejudice attitudes still exist. Well, they do. And I was so surprised to be at work and have one of my coworkers tell me that my hair was nappy, but that my hair was not as nappy as some other black students. So that made me different. I wasn't a normal black student because my hair was nappy, but not as nappy. And then she proceeded to tell me that black people speak differently than Caucasians do, and that we don't speak proper English. And imagine sitting at work and having somebody that you work with that you thought was a respectable, nice person. I've actually hung outside of work with this person. I never knew this person felt like this. And when I approached the person about the comments that she made, she told me the only reason she told me, and actually it was other African Americans that walked by and heard what she was saying, is because she would rather tell me to my face than behind my back. And she did not understand the degree of what she said. She did not understand that that was the most hurtful thing that I've ever had to sit through. And then to turn around and talk to other white colleagues and have them say, well, you know, that's just her, that's just how she feels, and let it go. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You would think that in today's age that people would stand up and say that it's wrong, or at least want to do something about it. Nobody said anything. Nobody stood up for me. It was just me. Just me. And the other 5 black employees that worked there. So, yeah.
I don't know, I think about racism and growing up in Mississippi. This probably seems weird, but for me, racism was pretty open in Mississippi. And so, I mean, you knew where to walk, you knew where to go, you knew to be home by dark. You knew all of those things, and you knew, how you had to approach people, things like that. And so to me, racism was pretty open. You knew, and, to be called a nigger was no big deal, for people in Mississippi. But to me, I think the thing that bothers me most is moving here to Illinois, where it's supposed to be the North. And when you grow up in the South, you hear about moving to the North, and half of my relatives are in Chicago and are here. And so you just think more progressive community. And then you get here, and I got here and experienced some of the same things that I did there, but they were just more closed, more institutionalized, as opposed to somebody calling you a nigger. They just didn't give you an opportunity, and you knew that. And and so I don't know. I think that's what's bothersome to me, is that in some respect you don't want racism to exist at all, but in another you would rather know that that's what you're walking into, and to be followed around stores, and to have my husband and I if we write a check of $100, the person in front of you could have just done the same thing, white person, and their license won't be asked for, just run it through, whatever. Then yours, you can get a really close look at your license and make sure you're who you say you are, and make sure that check clears. And so it's pretty, it's those subtle things here that I think are difficult for me, that I have a hard time with. So I don't know.
We were recently in Indianapolis for a weekend, and I think it was over spring break, and we were at a Walmart there. And we walked in, it was just 4 or 5 of us. All of us have graduated with our bachelor's, or are in school for our master's, or working in our careers. And we were with 3 of our friends from South Africa. And we walked into Walmart, and they have the greeter there. Kind of looked. I said, okay. He didn't say, hi, how you doing? He just kind of looked. I said, okay. So we kept walking, and we get to the electronics department, and my friend, one of my girlfriends, she wanted to buy an Xbox for her husband. So we were looking at the Xbox, and no one ever came over to help us. Now, it's not like Walmart was packed, come on now. And we were there. No one came over to help us. It's like 4 people in the area, So I waited. She waited. So I said, I'm going to go ask. So I said, excuse me, sir. We need some assistance over here. We're looking at Xboxes. And they were in a cage, so you couldn't actually, look at it, take it out and look at it or whatever. And he said, well, I'm pretty busy right now. I said, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. So I went back and I told my friend. So she said, my particular friend is from South Africa. She said, what? I said, yeah. So she said, well, let's talk to the manager. So we went to the customer service department and talked with the manager. And the manager told us that couldn't have possibly happened, because this particular worker had been working at Walmart for over 20 years. And that couldn't have possibly been her worker to say something like that. Maybe you got it wrong. Or if he was busy, then you should have waited, basically is what she said. So, okay, is this an Indianapolis thing? What, do I need to know something here? And we end up getting the regional manager's number. And one of her clerks who was in the customer service department, one of the clerks that were working there, she was just kind of like, oh my gosh. She's never talked to one of our clients like that, one of our customers. Never. She basically just told us, not my worker. He's been there for 20 years. That couldn't possibly. She didn't check into it. She didn't say, well, ma'am, let me bring him up here and find out what the case was, or I'll handle the situation. Nothing.